guys, and welcome back to the Migrant Hope channel. As you can see, I have two very lovely guests with me today. First of all, guys, I just want to say thank you to Titi, thank you to Carl, thank you so much guys. Thanks. For making the trip and for being my next door roommate. I'm coming. Thank you guys so much. So
thanks for having us.
Yes.
Absolutely, thanks for having us.
So we're going to go ahead and just go right into the video right now. So before we go into anything, I'd like our guests to introduce themselves. So Titi, you can go ahead.
Hi, my name is Titi and I'm Nigerian.
Whoop whoop.
I'm an accountant and I work at an accounting firm.
Okay.
Anything else?
What else? What do you like doing for fun?
I have a variety of interests. But I like exploring new places.
You like working out?
Yeah, I go to gym, I go to brunch, to rooftops, finding things like.
Finding things in life. Alright, Carl.
Hi, I'm Carl Camden. I'm from Cameroon. I work as a data scientist at a financial advisory firm in New York City. I enjoy working out, exploring New York City, watching TV shows, and a bunch of other things.
You did the Spartan race?
Yeah, I've done quite a few of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done I think 3 Spartan races and a Tough Mudder.
Wow. I actually want to do one of those.
It's really good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I guarantee you will love it.
Really?
It pushes you to the limits. Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh my god. Yeah. Okay, guys, so you've heard from our lovely guests, and they're going to be, of course, our guests on the show today. So, as you can see in the title below, we'll be talking about imposter syndrome, but from the perspective of 2 Africans. So, Titi is from Nigeria, and Carl's from Cameroon, like me. So, just background, imposter syndrome, right? Like, just so we kind of get like a better understanding, it's when high-achieving individuals, and as we are all millennials, right? It's mostly a millennial concept, how high-achieving millennials are, they get to that point where they feel like they're frauds, or they just feel like they're not competent enough to be able to get to where they need to be in their professional lives. And an article which Forbes came out with said that about 70% of millennials feel that way. So just for you guys, just so that we kind of get the ball rolling on this, have you guys ever experienced this, where you feel that like you're not competent enough, or like you feel like you don't belong somewhere, and this is in the capacity of like if you did like grad school, you went to like a real good grad school, or even like in your day-to-day professions?
I think I have. I went to Columbia University in New York City, and it's supposedly a very good school. And for the longest time, and starting from the day I was admitted, and even before that, I did not understand how it was possible for me to get into Columbia University. It is a very good school. A lot of high-profile people have been there, and me, this young African, guy coming from Cameroon, and just kind of navigating my way through life in general, and I end up in such a good school. For the longest time, I think I did not understand. Maybe I still don't really fully understand how I was able to make it into such a good school. And I'm not the brightest of the brightest or whatever. I'm an average person.
You have to be pretty bright though.
Exactly, like to get into Columbia though.
And I don't think I am.
To get into Columbia is not easy. Did you have to take like GMAT and all that stuff?
I took the GRE.
Oh, okay.
And interesting that you asked that. I did not have a great score. Like I had a 160 or something, and a bunch of my friends and classmates had perfect scores.
Wow.
And again, I don't understand how I did it.
Did you go there for your undergrad or?
No, it was grad school.
Yeah. So I guess like with that, right? Like at what point did you feel like, wow, I'm literally? Was it just like the GRE score perspective, or were there things that were said like during the program, or just like in your daily reactions? Where was the point that it kind of like a bulb went off, like, oh my God, I really do not belong here almost? I
think that. So I started having doubts, right? From the time when I was admitted. I was like, oh, this is how did I make it here? And then when I started the program and I met a lot of my classmates with whom I'm great friends today, and these people are absolutely bright. And these are people from all over the world, from different backgrounds, but really bright and very intelligent. I'm like, this is a group of really smart people. I don't know if I fit here, right? Like, I don't know if this is, I don't know how I made it here in the midst of all these people, not only within my program, but even outside my program or my department. It was a lot of smart people, and I did not understand how I fit in that space.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you said that about the doubts. How sometimes I think you're bright to get into that school. So that, and I think that's one thing that it's good to kind of talk about this whole imposter syndrome is. You think it's more so honestly, it's in your head, right? It's not a diagnosed psychological problem like depression or something like that, but it's a true thing that you feel that you're not competent enough, whereas everybody else looking at you is no, excuse you deserve to be there type of thing, And I definitely think, and I think we'll talk more about this in the video, that it's something that you can definitely snap out of, right? You realize no, I should belong here, I am supposed to be here type of thing. Okay, thank you for sharing. So Titi, from your perspective, right, you're coming from Nigeria, you went to school out there, and then you moved to the United States, and so now you work in corporate America. Do you feel that as a Black African female, sometimes you feel like an imposter in terms of do you have to do, because part of the whole imposter syndrome is you're a high achieving individual, which I know both of you guys are. So do you feel that you have to kind of put your best foot forward all the time? You always want to be on point for everything. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I personally don't think I've had imposter syndrome in the way I don't feel like I belong. But I've definitely had lots of moments where I doubt myself, and I think I think somewhat it's a tangent of it. It's not necessarily imposter syndrome in how it's defined, but it's still a part of it. But I think coming from Nigeria, there's definitely moments that I feel like I have to put my best. I feel like I have to put my best foot forward all the time. All the time. There's no time to slack.
Yeah.
Especially in the work. I think in college is less of that because with college, I feel like if you do the work, that's enough.
Yeah.
But in the workplace, you have to go above and beyond. So there's definitely moments, especially as a Black female, because sometimes it can be harder to integrate yourself.
Yeah.
Compared to your male counterparts that might also be Black, just because varying interests, you might not have common interests. Sometimes men, because my team is very male dominated, so I might not have all the interests they have. So sometimes I feel like I always have to make it up with work. I always have to be at the top of my game. But personally, it's something that I really struggled with my first year working. I felt like I was being judged for every single... if I came at 9:01, I would think the whole day, oh my God, they're judging me so hard right now. But no, it's just I'm just trying to calm and less in that space. But it's definitely something that I've experienced.
Yeah, and it's crazy how you said the same thing about that doubt. I think if we even go on a tangent a little bit, doubt is it's very powerful. I feel and sometimes I think we undermine it as millennials. You say I feel sometimes we doubt ourselves in the slightest things, and then we don't even realize how we actually slipped into our real our professional lives, right? At work, you're competent. There's an EGA, for example, it's evidence gathering activity, some other term. There's an EGA, you can get it done, but it's just wow, can I really do this type of thing, And it does play on your mind and everything. And I think also you mentioned that for every especially your first year of work, you said every time you would think that people would say okay, you come in 9:01, they're saying, oh wow, she came in. But now that you've kind of this is your second year working and everything, after you've had more interactions with those people, do you think that that's actually what they perceived, or was it more in your head?
I think lots of it was in my head. I don't think they cared if you came warm me to sleep. Knowing that I had a long commute, nobody was out here at 9 oh, Titi's not here.
Yeah.
I have to knock her wrong. So
yeah, that's true. That's crazy though. Yeah. And I guess would you guys attribute any of this, right? We are all trying to do really well for ourselves in our different professions. Do you think that sometimes the pressure for what you do as well, do you think that pressure of always trying to get everything right actually now plays in becoming part of okay, I'm getting too stressed out that I feel I'm not going to meet the quota or meet that expectation, and as a result of that, you almost kind of pull, not intentionally pull yourself back, but it's you start drifting away because you realize all right, it's physically not possible for me to get it done. Would you guys, anybody?
I don't think, no, that personally I haven't had that feeling in the past. No, it's for me, it's this is more of a personal thing. It's like at the very last minute, like I'm gonna try to get it done or whatever. And obviously there's times when, you know, you need to get help and you know, and it's always important to surround yourself with, you know, the people who could help you to do whatever you're doing. But for me, it's always till the last minute. I'm gonna push it.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, I think because I really don't get stressed as a person, but I think what causes, if I was to get stressed, is overthinking ahead. So like, if somebody gave me this thing to do right now, maybe it was not really my strong suit, or I have a lot to do. I'm thinking, oh my God, if I don't do this right, then it's going to affect my rating, then it's going to affect my trajectory. Then that's like what I'm thinking of. And I think that's what's causing the problem, because I'm not just thinking in the moment, like just doing this and trying your best. It's like, oh, but if I fail with this, like, then my whole, like, then what was the point of going to school? And then it's like, it's like this whole cycle. So like, I personally, like, it's something I realized, and my first year of working was very difficult for me. Not difficult, but it was just a very grave adjustment coming from school and having a whole different mindset. So I think that is partly what causes that problem. Like just overthinking how like one little mistake you make now is going to affect. And the truth is, it's not like it might maybe affect, maybe it might not rate you as well as you, but it's something that can always be changed. And I think that's what we forget sometimes, that if you did this one thing now, then you could, and you did do this as well, there's probably going to be opportunities for you to do it better again.
Yeah. Oh my God. You say that, I feel like you're just like preaching to me. Because, oh my God, like, I did not even get stressed out my first year, because I came in to work with a very interesting mentality. I wasn't like thinking like, okay, like I'm going to, and I've said this before, like in my previous videos, that when I started work, I told myself that I can like it, I cannot like it. I'm not going to force myself to like something that I truly don't. But I think my second year now, I started saying, okay, this is where I want to go. You know, this is the rating I want to get. You live with me, one mistake, I'm like, oh my God, these people are not going to forget it, blah blah blah. And I think for me, it becomes really bad, because I forget the purpose for which like I go to work. I'm not going to work to go get a 1 rating. I need to learn, because if I leave and go somewhere else, I want to be able to take that knowledge. So for me, like, I feel like that's crazy that you say that. I'm like, wow, because that's literally what I struggle with all the time, because I have to really reassess. Every week I make a goal and say, okay, I have to learn this. Don't worry too much about the mistakes, because when you pick up so much, we pay attention to the wrong things, and then you forget the bigger picture for what it is that you're actually there for. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So another thing, you know, it's like part of this is also the whole, like, when you're going through something like, especially because this is imposter syndrome, is not something which is like diagnosed per se. We could always get to that term, and this is like just like a different facet of it, is where we have that term of like everything is always okay. You can really be struggling with something at work, but you just think that everything is always okay. Can you guys speak to that and just say, like, if you've like experienced that, you know, trying to almost like cover up to make people think, again, this whole other people's perception of me, like, what do you guys think about that? Like,
I think I have it's probably not it's slightly different, because like, there's one thing that I think about all the time. It's similar to it's always going to be okay. It's, for me, I always say to myself, if someone else has done it, there's absolutely no reason why I shouldn't be able to do it. And for me, my mindset is always, you know, it's gonna be okay. Like I'm gonna be able to do it. Like if I've done it in the past or someone else has done it. I remember when I was in St. Bede's College, I was in Form 3, and I would see like high school upper six and lower six students have like this really thick textbooks in like biology and chemistry. And in my mind, I was like, how do people even study that for their GCE, right? Because I had these tiny notebooks, and that's really all we had. And then I was like, this is impossible. Like, you can't possibly do that, right? And fast forward a few years later, I was in that same position, like holding these huge textbooks, and I had to read them. It's almost like, you know, I always tell myself, if someone else has done it, I should be able to do it now. Taking it with a grain of salt, right? Because it's you know, there's obviously not and not everyone is the same. People are different, and sometimes I might use that to kind of mask the fact that maybe this is a really really tough situation. It's like if someone else has done it, I should be able to do it, and that comes with its pros and cons, I would say. So that's kind of my perspective.
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
For me, my face is very expressive. So if things are not going well at work, you could probably tell it's on my face because I don't have a poker face. That being said, though, when you said with the whole like if somebody else has done it, like you probably can't do it, I started having that mentality. It's somewhat different, but I think it's like the same premise in general. I think if it was easy, then everybody would do it, and it's not going to be easy, and that's why everybody's not doing it. So that challenge is meant to be there because you can't really grow if you don't have that challenge. Yeah. So that's why I try to look at it. And sometimes it's like not always easy to look at it that way because there's so much happening. You have all these made up deadlines and then people on your back and there's people like starting to get this and like you're being pulled here and there. Yeah. So it can be very hard. Like it can be very easy to get overwhelmed and have to get into that space where you're like, well, if it was easy, then everybody would do it. So I'm in like a good spot. So that's what I have now. But to go to your question, I definitely don't mask my I don't sweep it under the rug. Like I don't complain, but like you can see it on my face.
Yeah.
So I've just reached the point where I just have to do what I have to do. That's why I just look at it like you just have to do what you have to do and code it.
Oh my god, you say don't complain. Let me ask you guys a very awful question. Do you find that have you guys noticed that people complain a lot in this country? Like about everything? Like I feel like, and for me sometimes I would want to complain about something at work, but I don't want to complain because for me the way I grew up is like you should be happy that you're here, you have a good job, stable, all that kind of stuff, and I don't want to complain because I don't want to, but truthfully I'm so unhappy. Has that ever happened to am I like the only person?
I think again this is like similar premise, right? Not exactly. I think you're right, and I feel the same way in that growing up in Cameroon is like, hey, you have your mouth fed, you're fed, you're fine, you're going to school, everything. I don't see why you're complaining, right? Mm-hmm. And coming to this country, I have learned in many ways to kind of speak my mind, and the whole freedom of expression, and I don't know if it's the First Amendment, I don't know which one it is.
So what I was saying was, let's say for example, right, like we've understood about talked about the whole imposter syndrome, right? Like let's say somebody is feeling that way. Just what form of encouragement would you give, or kind of how would you navigate that situation if you were in their place?
I think personally, one thing that helped me that's very fresh in my mind is what other people around me, the people that I kind of surrounded myself with, because sometimes it's really difficult to kind of get out of that situation yourself, and I was lucky to always have people who, because first of all, like if you make it into a certain place or you have a certain job, you're smart. Like if you're a doctor, if you're whatever, you're smart. Like if you're in that, if you didn't cheat, you're smart. So, but sometimes it's difficult to kind of tell yourself that. Yeah. So it's been very helpful for me. It's not like I was seeking that from other people, but I had friends and even old bosses who would tell me, Carl, you're smart. You've been able to do this, and kind of remind me of the things that I've been able to achieve over the years. And I think that once want to take the time to listen to them and kind of reflect back, you slowly start to realize that, hey, maybe they're right, maybe I got into this place because I did this set of good things, and I think for me that's been very very powerful, not only outside of my imposter syndrome that I had at Columbia, but other things in life. It was like, hey, I think you're doing a good job, this is the proof, so just keep. I think that's been very helpful for me.
Yeah, that's true. What about you, Titi?
I think something that's helpful, and as you said, it's important to surround yourself with people that can encourage you and let you know that you're actually meant to be where you are. But I think something I try to tell myself is I realize that a lot of people around us that we think know, maybe in the workplace, for example, my coworkers. I realized that a lot of my coworkers that I might have thought maybe knew more than me, sometimes it's just the confidence and it's just in how they express themselves. And I think that could be somewhat lacking. Especially, and I say this especially in like black females, not to like not say anything about you or anything, but just especially African females. Like I went to a Catholic boarding school and they used to say women are to be seen, not heard. So if that's a mindset that has like been ingrained with you, and I know like they didn't. I don't think they like meant it out here like, oh, let me destroy these little girls and tell them to not be confident.
Yeah,
that's one statement.
That's very
but like
statement.
They used to say like women should be like calm and like be quiet and like be centered and all of that. So like if you grow up thinking that, like if you come in the workplace, if you still have that mindset, you're going to not speak up and might not seem confident. And if you are not being perceived as confident by other people, you might start to perceive yourself in that way, and that might contribute to why you're feeling that way. So I try to like remind myself that like I deserve to be here, and a lot of times we have the same qualifications, and maybe if I think some of my peers are doing better than me, it might not be necessarily because they know more, it might just be because they're able to like finesse their way to look like they know more.
Yeah.
Also, I just try to like remind people, like, just remember what you've done. Like, you went to school, you did this,
like what you said, right?
You did all of this. So
yeah,
it's really important.
Yeah, I feel like you said, the confidence, like the way people talk. Like you can tell. I remember one day I had to go talk to the client about something, but it was just my manager and I, and he was like, oh, just go talk to them by yourself. He was like, you don't need me. It was like 10 people and it was just me. So I go there and I'm talking. So he starts laughing when I come back, and I'm like, he's like, oh, how did it go? I'm like, very interesting. He's like, what happened? I said, and this is a white guy, right? And I told him, I said, I knew what I was talking about. Like I said it, like it came out, but I said, oh my God, you should have seen the way they were looking at me. This was like September. He told me, say, Charlene, don't ever let them think that you don't know what you're talking about. So you just have to say, I know, just fix your face, like look confident. Yeah. He was like, I know you know what, that's why I told you to go by yourself. Like, I know you know what to do, but he was like, don't let those people because of age and all that thing intimidate you. He was like, what are they intimidating you about? Yeah. You clearly need something, so he said, just be confident, because people can sense the fear and the like self-doubt. Yeah. So he was like, no, you have to just kind of like, build yourself up on. Yeah. So guys, hopefully you learned something, and like we said, the goal for our channel is so that we can grant young professionals the choice. We want to be able to give everybody the opportunity to express themselves, and more so like start these conversations. And we're talking now about imposter syndrome. So guys, the month of December is for Africans mostly. Everybody can watch it, right? But these are my people, so I want to dedicate the month of December to you guys. So just stay tuned, and thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Like, you guys don't understand. Like, I'm actually very grateful. Thank you guys so much. And if you tuned in today, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.